A stubborn elderly lady faced an arrogant condo manager who blocked her path to a beach she had frequented for decades. Determined to fight for her rights, she discovered unexpected documents. She owned part of the beach the condominium claimed to possess. A twist that transformed not only beach access but an entire community. A story of courage, justice, and unity that will move you. Leave a like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching this incredible journey from. You won't believe what that arrogant manager tried to pull on me. He had the audacity, the gall, to stop me from going to the beach I've been visiting for over 30 years. But let me tell this story right, because what happened next, oh my dear, it was a twist that even a primetime soap opera couldn't top. It was an April morning, sun hitting the window, that perfect day to feel the sand between my toes. As I always did for the past 3 decades, I grabbed my beach bag, my straw hat, the one my granddaughter says is out of style, but who cares, and headed out for my morning walk on the beach. This daily ritual is more sacred to me than Sunday. Mass, okay? But when I got to the usual path, what did I find? A huge metal gate shining like new with a giant sign, private property, restricted access. And standing there, posing like he owned the place, was him. The condo manager of the Starfish. Residence, that luxury condominium that had sprang up like weeds on our coast. Ma'am, this beach now belongs to the residents of the residents. You cannot pass, he said, looking over his expensive sunglasses, as if I were an ant messing up his day. I looked him straight in the face and snapped, "Listen here, Sonny, I've been walking on this sand since before you were born. Who are you, to tell me where I can or cannot walk?" He gave that typical manager smirk and waved his clipboard in my face. "Those are the new rules, Granny. Private condominium, private beach. You can complain to City Hall if you want. Next." Granny? Granny? At 67 years old, I may be a proud grandmother, but I never ever accept being belittled by a suit-wearing fop who probably doesn't even know how to boil an egg. I went home fuming with rage. My husband, May, God rest his soul, always, said my stubbornness was bigger than the ocean. Well, he was right. At that moment, I decided this wasn't going to stand. The Starfish Residence condominium had appeared practically overnight. Where there used to be a coastal scrubland area, suddenly apartment towers with ridiculous names like Ocean Breeze and Blue Pearl popped up. All very fancy, very expensive, very intrusive. The next day I went back, and the day after, and the day after that too. Every single day I showed up at the gate, like a test of patience. The manager, I found out his name was Robert, but to me he'll always be the fop, already rolled his eyes when he saw me coming. Sometimes he'd send the security guards to block me, as if I were some kind of terrorist threat. Me with my worn-out flip-flops and my SPF 70 sunscreen. "You are disturbing the peace," he'd say. I'd reply, "And you're raising my blood pressure." But neither of us is going to back down, are we? After 2 weeks of this tug-of-war, I realized I needed a better strategy. I started researching. I called my granddaughter Julia, a second-year law student. "Grandma, beaches are public property. They can't restrict access like that," she explained, all proud of her legal knowledge. Armed with that information, I went to City Hall. The clerk, a young man who always bought fish from my late husband, looked at me with pity. "Ms. Teresa, unfortunately, that area was sold to the development with the right to exclusive use of the sandy strip. It's all documented." I left there with more questions than answers. How can a beach be sold? This felt wrong deep in my soul. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my Augustus, who spent his whole life as a fisherman on that beach, about the afternoons we'd sit together watching the sunset, the Sunday BBQs with the neighbors, the community kids learning to swim there. So many memories that a gate now wanted to erase. It was while rummaging through those memories that I had a flash of insight. Augustus always kept important documents in a wooden box in the attic. He was too organized for a fisherman, as I always joked. I climbed the stairs, my knees complaining with every step, and poked my head into the dusty attic. The box was there, exactly where he left it before he left us 5 years ago. I opened it carefully, like opening a treasure. Inside were papers of all kinds, birth certificate, our yellowed marriage certificate, boat documents, and a sealed brown envelope with the word property written by hand. I opened it with a racing heart. What I found left me breathless. It was a deed, dated 1975, where my husband bought from an old, Local farmer coastal lots with direct access to the sea, including the corresponding sandy strip. Along with it was a detailed map and a note written in Augustus's shaky handwriting. To guarantee our little piece of paradise forever. One day, you will understand. And how I understood. That man, always thinking ahead, had bought not only our house but a considerable part of the beach, a beach that the condominium now claimed was their property. The next day, I woke up like a woman. Reborn. I put on my most colorful printed dress, the one my friends say looks like a walking garden, and marched to the condominium gate with the folder of documents under my arm. "The manager, please," I asked the security guard with a smile. That didn't match the revolution I was about to start. Robert appeared a few minutes later, clearly annoyed by the interruption to his important day of, well, whatever managers do when they're not stopping old ladies from walking on the beach. "Ma'am, Teresa, isn't it? I thought we had already clarified the situation," he said, not even bothering to hide his disdain. "Oh, we did clarify it. Just not the way you imagine," I replied, opening the folder with a calm that hid the storm inside me. "These are the documents that prove I own 40% of the sandy strip you call private beach, including, look how interesting, the exact section where you built that area with expensive lounge chairs." His face was priceless. First came the shock, then the disbelief, then that contained anger of someone not used to being contradicted. He picked up the papers with the tips of his fingers, as if they were contaminated. "This can't be real. These documents are too old, they probably don't even have legal validity," he tried to argue, frantically flipping through the pages. "The Land Registry Office seal disagrees with you, dear. It's all legalized, renewed, and updated. My husband may have been just a fisherman, but he knew very well how to protect what was ours." Robert swallowed hard. You could see the wheels turning in his head, that of a retired executive now playing at being the boss of the neighborhood. "We'll need to verify this with our lawyers," he stammered. "Verify away. Meanwhile, you can open this gate because I'm going for my walk. On my beach." That day I walked with a special pleasure. Every grain of sand under my feet seemed to celebrate with me. "Augustus, you sly old fox, you thought of everything." But that was just the beginning of the war. In the following days, the manager showed he wouldn't give up easily. First came the veiled intimidations. "You live alone, don't you? Security must be a concern these days." Then the more direct tactics. Security cameras coincidentally installed pointing at my house, guards doing rounds when my grandchildren came to visit, warning letters for disturbing the peace when I played my radio a little louder in the late afternoon. The local community, which had previously observed my battle with cautious distance, began to get involved when the manager cancelled the Shrimp Festival, a century-old tradition in our town, claiming the beach was now a restricted area and public events were prohibited. The Shrimp Festival wasn't just a party, it was the livelihood of many local families. The lacemakers sold their pieces, the fishermen sold directly to tourists, the artisans displayed their work. When that gate stopped all of that, the revolt spread like wildfire through dry straw. Mr. Nelson, an 80-year-old fisherman who knew every rock on that coast, was the first to knock on my door. "Miss Teresa, is it true you have documents for the beach?" I confirmed, showing the copies I had already provided. His eyes sparkled like the scales of the fish he caught. "Then we have a chance." In a few days, my living room turned into a makeshift headquarters. Fishermen, lacemakers, local merchants, everyone came to discuss strategies. Maps spread across the table, small coffee always ready, and that contagious energy of those who know they are on the right side of history. Meanwhile, I continued my routine of daily provocations to the manager. "Good morning, Robert. The sea is beautiful today, isn't it? Almost as blue as your face when you see me coming." He would huff, but he couldn't stop me from passing anymore. My documents were being analyzed by the condominium's lawyers, and until then I had gained the right of access. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. It was during this period that I discovered an unexpected ally. I was walking on the beach when an elegant lady, one of those who wear designer clothes even to dip their feet in the water, approached me. Teresa Mendonça, don't you recognize me?" I looked closely at that made-up face, and beneath the layers of sunscreen and foundation I recognized her. "Margaret Jones from State School. She smiled, confirming. Margaret had been my classmate in middle school over 50 years ago. Now she was the widow of a hotel businessman and, surprise, a resident of the Starfish residence. I heard about your fight with the manager. The whole condominium is talking about it, she confessed, lowering her voice as if we were sharing teenage secrets. Most residents didn't even know the beach was considered private when they bought the apartments. Many are upset about the extra fees we pay for exclusive area maintenance. That was a revelation. The condominium residents themselves weren't entirely aligned with the manager's practices. Margaret offered to be my eyes and ears inside the condominium, keeping me informed about the council meetings and decisions. That's how I discovered the most absurd plan of all. The manager intended to build a luxury spa exactly where the fishermen had kept their boats for generations. The project had already been approved by the council, and construction would begin in 2 months. They want to turn the beach into a private resort, Margaret explained, showing me photos of the project on her expensive phone. Infinity pool over the rocks, gourmet restaurant, day spa, all fenced and with 24-hour security. That was more than an affront. It was a death sentence for our community's way of life. If that project went ahead, it wouldn't just be my right to walk on the beach at stake, but the entire local culture. The next day, I received an unexpected visit. Robert himself, the manager himself, knocked on my door at 10 in the morning. He was alone without his usual security escort and seemed almost friendly. "Miss Teresa, I've come to make a proposal that might interest you," he said, without his sunglasses for the first time. His eyes were small and restless, like someone always calculating something. I offered him coffee more out of habit than hospitality. He refused, getting straight to the point. "Our lawyers have confirmed the validity of your documents. You really do own rights to part of the beach, but this can be resolved amicably." He picked up a briefcase and took out a document. "The Starfish residence is willing to buy your property. We are offering 3 times the market value." When he mentioned the amount, I almost choked on my coffee. It was enough money to buy a mansion, travel the world, and still leave a considerable inheritance for my grandchildren. In exchange, he continued, you would sign a non-disclosure agreement and immediately cease any action against the condominium. I looked at that paper, at all that money that could be mine with a simple signature. I thought about everything I could do, the problems I could solve. What about the shrimp festival? What about the fishermen's boats? What about public access to the beach? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. He shrugged, as if we were talking about insignificant things. Progress has its price, Miss Teresa. That fishing community is bound to disappear anyway. You could at least secure your future. It was at that moment that something clicked inside me. This man wasn't just trying to buy a piece of land. He was trying to buy my conscience, my history, my community. "Robert," I said calmly, "do you know the difference between us?" He raised his eyebrows, curious. "You see this beach as an investment. I see it as a home." I stood up, indicating that the conversation was over. "You can keep your money and your proposals. This beach is not for sale." His expression hardened instantly. The friendly Robert disappeared, replaced by the manager I knew well. "You will regret this decision," he said, gathering his papers. "We are prepared to fight this in court, and we have resources for years of litigation." I smiled with a tranquility I didn't even know I possessed. What a coincidence, Sonny. So do I. What Robert didn't know, and what I would discover in the following days, was that I had more allies than I imagined. As soon as he left, I called my granddaughter Julia and told her about the proposal. "Grandma, this is attempted bribery. We can use this against him." Julia helped me find a lawyer specializing in environmental and coastal law, Dr. Maurice, a middle-aged man with gray hair and a determination that rivaled mine. He accepted the case immediately, fascinated by the peculiar situation. "In 50 years of practice, I've never seen a case where a private individual legitimately owns part of a beach," he commented, analyzing my documents. "This will set an interesting precedent. With my savings, which weren't even a tenth of what the manager had offered but were the fruit of an honest life, I hired Dr. Maurice. He soon discovered irregularities in the condominium licensing. They built on coastal scrubland area without adequate environmental studies," he explained, showing maps and documents spread on my table. and the spa project they intend to build is in a permanent preservation area. Armed with this information, we filed a lawsuit against the condominium. The manager, as promised, counterattacked with his team of expensive lawyers. The legal battle had officially begun. While the processes moved slowly through the courts, life in the community transformed. The fishermen, led by Mr. Nelson, began strategically parking their boats on the sand, exactly where the spa would be built. The lacemakers organized a permanent exhibition of their work on the path to the beach. Local merchants offered discounts to anyone who came to support the public beach. The manager, in turn, intensified his tactics. The security cameras multiplied, always aimed at our area. Flyers appeared in the mailboxes of local residents, offering relocation opportunities with exclusive benefits, a polite way of saying they wanted to kick us out. That's when nature decided to intervene in our dispute. On an October night, a tropical storm hit the coast with a fury we hadn't seen in years. Torrential rain, strong winds, and the sea invading the land more than usual. The high wall built by the condominium, which altered the natural course of the dunes, had a catastrophic effect. All the rainwater, prevented from draining naturally to the sea, was directed towards the old residents' houses. In a few hours, we were all standing in waist-deep water inside our own living rooms. I spent the night on the second floor of my house, watching furniture and memories floating on the first floor. Through the window, I could see the lights of the condominium, where the special drainage system kept everything dry and protected. The inequality had never been so evident. When dawn broke and the waters began to recede, the community was devastated. But something unexpected happened. Residents of the condominium, including Margaret and others I didn't even know, showed up with clothes, food, and a willingness to help. "We saw what happened," said a gentleman in his 70s, rolling up his sleeves to help remove the mud from my living room. "This isn't right. The condominium clearly made your situation worse." During the days of cleaning and rebuilding that followed, the barriers between us and them began to dissolve. The new residents met the old ones. Stories were shared. Friendships blossomed between unlikely people. The tragedy had an unexpected humanizing side. It was during this period that I found, among the items damaged by the flood, that wooden box from Augustus. The water had gotten in, soaking some documents, but miraculously preserving an envelope I hadn't opened before. Inside were more deeds and a detailed map. I took everything to Dr. Morris, who analyzed those new documents, perplexed. "Ms. Teresa," he said after hours poring over the papers, "you don't own 40% of the beach as we thought." My heart sank. Had it all been in vain? He smiled with that spark of someone bringing game-changing news. "You own 63% of it, and what's more, some of the land the condominium currently occupies was purchased irregularly. They were registered in your husband's name since 1978. That completely changed the situation. We weren't just fighting to maintain beach access, we were now questioning the very legitimacy of part of the condominium. When this information became public, chaos erupted at the Starfish residence. Many residents, who had paid fortunes for their apartments, discovered their properties were in an irregular situation. An emergency assembly was called. The manager, visibly shaken, tried to calm things down by explaining that small irregularities could be resolved legally. That's when Margaret, my old schoolmate and now informant, took the floor. "Small irregularities? Robert, you guaranteed. Thus everything was 100% legal when we bought. Now we find out we're partially built on someone else's land, that the beach isn't really private, and that your spa project would be in a protected area." Other residents joined the criticism. Questions about the extra fees began to arise. Questions about the destination of the condominium's money. The revolt grew by the minute. At the end of that tumultuous meeting, a committee of residents was formed to negotiate directly with me and the local community, bypassing the manager's authority. The next day, I received 5 representatives from the condominium at my rebuilt house, including Margaret. No sign of Robert. "We want to propose an agreement," said a distinguished gentleman who introduced himself as the president of the new committee. "But we don't want to buy your land or your rights. We want a partnership." The proposal was surprising. Instead of fighting over the space, the condominium would help fund the environmental preservation of the area and the maintenance of local traditions in exchange for infrastructure improvements that would benefit everyone. Beach access would be free but organized. The Shrimp Festival would not only be maintained but expanded, becoming a tourist event that would attract visitors to the region. "We're willing to admit that the initial model was wrong," Margaret explained. "We want to be part of the community, not destroy it." I consulted the fishermen, the lacemakers, the merchants. At first there was distrust. Years of antagonism don't disappear overnight. But the proposal seemed sincere, and the benefits were evident to everyone. We were about to finalize the agreement when Robert made his last desperate move. He appeared at City Hall claiming that my documents violated the municipal master plan and that the entire negotiation was illegal. That's when the mayor, himself, the son of local fishermen, intervened publicly. No wall or gate can prevent access to what belongs to everyone. The beach is public property by constitutional definition. If Ms. Teresa holds rights over part of it, she can decide how to use them. And she chose to share, not restrict. It was the final blow. A week later, at a historic assembly held at the Old Fishermen's Association, the manager was removed from his position by a vote of the residents themselves. In his place, a shared management. 3 representatives from the condominium and 2 from the local community would make decisions together. The gate that once blocked access was removed. In its place, we built an open archway with a simple sign, "Community Beach, Welcome." The luxury spa project was replaced by a cultural center, where fishermen teach their techniques to kids from the condominium, and lacemakers offer workshops for interested people. Today, almost a year after that first confrontation with the manager, I observe the beach, free again from my porch. I see kids from the condominium learning from Mr. Nelson how to identify fish and mend nets. I see tourists buying crafts directly from the lacemakers. I see the sunset painting the sky orange, exactly as in the days when Augustus and I used to sit together admiring this view. This year's Shrimp Festival was the most attended in decades. Colorful stalls stretched across the beach, music played late, and visitors from all over the region came to celebrate with us. I saw Robert passing discreetly through the crowd, now just another resident, without a special position or authority. Our eyes met for a moment, and I made sure to raise my glass of caipirinha in a silent toast. I didn't buy the beach to keep it all to myself. Augustus already knew that when he acquired those lands so many decades ago. I bought it to give it back to everyone. And in this battle, I discovered that my true inheritance wasn't the papers stored in the attic, but the courage to defend what is right, even when everyone says it's impossible. Now, at almost 68 years old, I still take my morning walk on the sand. Sometimes alone, sometimes accompanied by new friends from the condominium, sometimes surrounded by curious children who ask me to tell, once again, the story of the grandma who bought the beach. And I tell it, with all the dramatic details and surprising twists, because some stories deserve to be remembered, not for the victory itself, but for what it represents. Proof that a stubborn person, when they are on the right side, can face walls, gates, and arrogant managers, and win. So, the next time someone tries to convince you that you are too small to fight against the powerful, remember me, a 67-year-old lady who decided not to take no for an answer. Remember that sometimes the impossible is just a matter of perspective, and that in some cases, the best response to a closed gate isn't a key, it's a lever big enough to rip off the hinges. And if you happen to be passing by our beach one of these days, look for me. I'll be there, probably with my out-of-style straw hat, feeling the sand between my toes and celebrating every small victory that life offers us. Because in the end, it's not the documents or the properties that define our story. It's the battles we choose to fight and the people we decide to fight for. This was the story of how an arrogant manager blocked my access to the beach, and I ended up buying the whole beach, not to close it off but to open it up again, because some things like the sea, the sky, and freedom shouldn't have an owner. They should belong to all of us. Oh, and as for Robert, I heard he got a new job as a manager in a condominium inland far from any beach, which is probably better for all of us, especially for the beaches.